Chapter 891. Unceasing Mischief. In Excellent Era's practice room, the team players were all looking at one another. They had also seen the newest system announcement. Happy's new record was ahead of them by a huge chunk. Their current dungeon run was pointless. How could that be? Sun Jiang's one autumn leaf rolled after being blown away. When he stood up again, he didn't charge back in. This guy was already beginning to mutter to himself. The reputation of pro players wasn't undeserved. Xiao Shiken was startled at first, but after thinking back, he felt like there wasn't anything the team had done wrong. Perhaps Happy performed better, or perhaps Happy's equipment was better than their current equipment, but such a huge gap in speed meant that the issue lay elsewhere. Xiao Shiken quickly found the issue. The first boss. Happy had definitely gotten rid of the first boss's signal flare, altering the dungeon's difficulty and allowing them to achieve such an extraordinary clear time. The first boss's signal flare? Yes, it must be that part, Sun Shang responded soon after hearing Xiao Shiken's words. There's no point continuing, is there? Hurry up and call the guild department to send over another batch of accounts. We need to carefully study the first boss, Sun Shang called out. Xiao Shiken heard the request. Wasn't this what he was most worried about? He was afraid that the team would raise Yi Chu onto a pedestal and put all their energy into studying dungeons. Dungeons were PvE, but pro players should be focused on PvP. The reason that Yi Chu and his team ran these dungeons was definitely in order to improve their PvP capabilities, but if Excellent Era concentrated on doing this, it would result in the reverse. There's no hurry, Xiao Shiken immediately advised against it. That's about it for this run. Let's finish it up first. There's still another 10-player dungeon, Grey Corner's Underground Market. Let's go to that one next. Yi Chu's team will most likely go to that dungeon and improve that side's record. Sun Shang wanted to turn the tables, but it would be difficult in this dungeon. If they received another set of characters, it was just one more try. What's more, they needed to study the dungeon, meaning their run would be similar to a first attempt at a dungeon. They definitely wouldn't be able to achieve a good time. Plus, would they even be able to figure it out after just a few runs? Sun Jiang's proposal was too unreliable. A counterattack would also feel slow. As a result, Xiao Shiken suggested to hurry and finish this dungeon and then run over to the last one. They would be the ones chasing Happy then. It would act as a motivator for them. Soon afterwards, he urged everyone to hurry. After Yishu's team set a record for Sealed Mountain Thief Hideout, they indeed rushed towards Grey Corner. Their goal was the same as their goal at Sealed Mountain Thief Hideout, take down the record and waste Excellent Era's time. However, they hadn't found any shortcuts in Grey Corner's Underground Market like they had in Sealed Mountain Thief Hideout. Yishu was still confident though. Their team might not be as practiced or as coordinated as a pro team like Excellent Era yet, but if it was just for this dungeon alone, then Happy was definitely superior to Excellent Era. They used this dungeon every day as their practice for teamwork. It was similar to having a home field advantage. Every day gave them 2 attempts, and many days had passed since their first clear. Even if Excellent Era urged themselves forward, they wouldn't be able to catch up in familiarity and proficiency towards this dungeon so easily. Just do it like we usually do. There's nothing to be worried about. Before entering the underground market, Yishu gave them words of advice. Even though Sealed Mountain Thief Hideout's record had frightened Excellent Era, Yishu knew that it hadn't been a perfect run. Perhaps just having a direct competitor made them tense up. As a result, Yishu specifically addressed this point. However, that was the best he could do. The rest was up to them. They entered the dungeon. Their progress through it went swiftly like before. Mo Fan, who had never done any teamwork practice before, started following along every day after this time's DPS lesson. However, they were currently running a new dungeon. For a moment, he wasn't able to adjust. In fact, this used to be a practice method in the past. As Mo Fan assimilated into the team's combat strength naturally rose immensely. Don't look at how the DPS of Mo Fan's deception was still only better than Chen Guo's chasing haze and Luo Ji's concealed light. His integration into the team no longer made him an obstruction. In addition, by adjusting to the features of Deception's class, they could sometimes coordinate a higher DPS battle method. 41 hours 37 minutes and 11 seconds. Happy was the first to set a new record. It was quite a bit faster than their previous record that they had intentionally held back on. Excellent Era had arrived to the dungeon one step later, so they were still struggling in the dungeon. Happy's new time gave them a clear goal as what to aim for. Hurry, faster. A bit faster. This voice belonged to Excellent Era's son Shang. His leading was pretty much just urging everyone to hurry. The details of their tactics and team coordination was given to Xiao Shiken to deal with. When Happy's record appeared, Excellent Era subconsciously paid attention to when they first entered the dungeon and then let out a small sigh of relief. This time, the other side's time was faster than their current time at least. They still had hope. As for how much hope they had. As the players battled and calculated in their heads, their conclusion wasn't too optimistic, especially for Xiao Shiken. He was the most clear about their current situation, so he was the closest to the truth. From their current progress, if they continued using this stable strategy, Excellent Era would not beat Happy's 41 hours 37 minutes and 11 seconds, but if they didn't use this strategy, Xiao Shiken didn't know where else they could improve. Even pro players needed time to study this kind of task. Xiao Shiken hoped that everyone would remain calm even after losing this round. He hoped that they wouldn't stand up and get into an either you die or I die stance. The events did not unfold the way Xiao Shiken wanted. Before their final time came out, when the outcome became clear, Sun Shang flew into a rage. He hated how his character didn't have 3 heads and 6 arms, capable of defending against 100 and crush this dungeon with a point of his finger. The end result was that, during the final boss battle, their time went past Happy's record. Their final time was slower than Happy's record by almost 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes sounded like a short amount of time, but for a speed run, it was a huge ravine. To fill up this gap, the amount of effort needed wouldn't be any less than figuring out how to stop the signal flare from Sealed Mountain Thief Hideout's first boss. Xiao Shiken became even gloomier. This Yi Chu kept on making trouble for them. The more he was afraid of something, the more likely it would happen. Chapter 892. It doesn't need to be like this. Excellent Era ran 2 dungeons in a row for nothing. After seeing how practiced Happy was at these dungeons, Xiao Shiken reckoned that the 10-player record recently set by them would be cleared out by Happy sooner or later. In the future, when pro players set out, would the world be at peace? On one hand, it had to be said that Excellent Era was very worried about Yi Chu, but on the other hand, they were also very negligent towards Yi Chu's companions. They kept on forgetting that Yi Chu's side was a team as well. Yi Chu had set his mind on forming his own team the day he had left Excellent Era. In Excellent Era's eyes, this type of team couldn't be considered a pro team, but they seemed to forgot that 8 or 9 years ago, when Excellent Era had just formed, they were the same too. With Yi Chu at the head, he led a bunch of grassroots players from the game and carried Team Excellent Era to the peak of glory. Perhaps it was because the pro scene was no longer the same as it had been before. It wasn't so easy for a black horse to rise from nothing. Even a wealthy team like Heavenly Swords was bitterly struggling in their first season. However, nothing was absolute. Weren't miracles created by people? Excellent Era had a conflicting mentality, fearful yet disdainful. Xiao Shiken was powerless to do anything. The uneasiness in his heart became greater and greater. He was beginning to wonder if his decision to choose Excellent Era had been too careless of him. His reason for coming to Excellent Era was the same as many numerous others. Excellent Era would return to the Alliance without question and bring with them a boundless future. He came to Excellent Era not for the present, but for the future. However, he was now realizing that the solid premise for this future was beginning to waver. Facing Yi Chu, Excellent Era was even less confident than he was, perhaps because they only knew too well how terrifying Yi Chu could be. Now, they had suffered a complete defeat in the competition for dungeon records. Would this increase their lack of confidence even further? Excellent Era's strategic plan could be considered one step wrong, every step wrong. What now? Continue to push forward, or hastily persuade them to correct their course of action? Would he able to persuade them though? A few days ago, he had a good discussion with Kui Li. He could tell that Kui Li had sincerely accepted his suggestion, but a few days later, as soon as Happy took the spotlight in the game, he couldn't remain calm. At this moment, Xiao Shiken truly felt like he was caught between a rock and a hard place. His thoughts were no longer focused on the dungeon. How could the others not be the same? In the following section, their efficiency dropped drastically. Their progress through the dungeon even became rocky. When Xiao Shikan refocused his thoughts, he saw how the team's heart wasn't in it. His heart jumped. He felt like he had sensed something. Sun Shang was their team's captain. Not only was he not helping to establish a proper mentality for a team, he was taking the lead to push it off balance. He completely broke away from the team. His violent playstyle showed his anger. This scene. Xiao Shikan suddenly remembered. Last season, when Excellent Era collapsed and their team's condition took a devastating dive, didn't it resemble this very scene? The players weren't focused, were unable to cooperate. They seemed to have no strength and confidence. Last season, could Excellent Era have suffered a setback? Was the setback due to Yi Chu? It can't be. Xiao Shikan had second thoughts. At that time, Yi Chu was focused on the game. Excellent Era was focused on the Pro League. The two sides weren't direct competitors yet. Why would they waste any time fighting Yi Chu? Xiao Shikan didn't continue to guess. He could get the answers by asking others. Once the team finished the dungeon, Xiao Shikan urged everyone to take a break. Even if they wanted to break Happy's records, it would take a while. Once the emotions of everyone began to stabilize, Xiao Shikan immediately looked for Kui Li. Kui Li had clearly received the news. No one in Excellent Era was more aware of the events occurring in the game than Chen Yahui, and Chen Yahui had a very close relationship with Kui Li. When Xiao Shikan came to look for him, Kui Li reckoned that it must be related to what had just happened. Who would have thought that Xiao Shikan would ask about Excellent Era's sudden decline in the last half of the season? Why did Excellent Era suddenly collapse mid-season? The media spoke of it as a mystery. Everyone had tried to analyze it left and right. In the end, they concluded that the newcomer still getting incorporated into the team was the reason. When Excellent Era's internal department examined the matter, apart from these reasons, they couldn't find anything else either. At that time, Excellent Era didn't do anything that could have affected their condition. Xiao Shikan didn't say it directly, but with this as context, it was quite obvious what he meant by anything else. Kui Li listened to his question and understood. He shook his head though, no. But after saying no, he also went into a daze. No. That's what he believed, but was that really the truth? Was there really nothing? It seemed like he needed to consult Chen Yahui. Wait a second, after saying no, Kui Li suddenly had a change of heart. He told Xiao Shikan to wait and called Chen Yahui. Kui Li didn't say anything in his phone call. He simply called Chen Yahui to come over immediately. A few minutes later, a knock sounded from outside his office door. Chen Yahui had rushed over. Last season, after Yi Chu left and went to the game, did anyone on our side run over to fight with Yi Chu in private? Chen Yahui's heart thumped. This situation had happened before. He and Lu Hao were the primary instigators. Lu Hao had already been traded away by the team. If this bomb exploded, would he be shouldering the blame alone? Chen Yahui started to panic. At that time, they had done it behind the club's back. After a bunch of stuff happened that even affected the team's performance, no one dared to say a word. When the club examined the reasons for their relegations, they didn't pursue this topic, so all of the participants let out a sigh of relief. Who would have thought that, half a season later, this topic would pop up again? Chen Yahui saw Xiao Shikan in the room. This guy was even further away from them back then. How could he know about it? Chen Yahui fell silent and his expression clearly turned pale. He had already given them the answer. By the time he noticed his own actions, he realized that his slow response was enough of an answer. If he tried to cover up the truth, he would be challenging his boss's intellect. Helpless, Chen Yahui could only tell the truth. As for who to blame, he obviously pushed it all onto Lu Hao. He explained that it was all Lu Hao's idea. Lu Hao had told him about these ideas, and since it wasn't too much trouble, he just gave him a little help like providing characters and whatnot. Bang! Kui Li didn't allow him the chance to continue speaking. He slammed the table and suddenly stood up. He pointed at Chen Yahui and said, you, for a while, but in the end, he wasn't able to say anything else. There was no point to saying anything now. If this was before and he had found out the truth that this matter had led to their team's downfall and poor performance, the participants would have certainly received severe punishment. For a staff member like Chen Yahui, he might even have been fired. But a year had already passed since then. It was too late to settle the score now. Chen Yahui retreated to the side pathetically. He didn't dare to breathe. Right now, only the manager knew. If the boss found out, what would the result be? It looks like even if this matter wasn't the primary reason for Excellent Era's sudden decline last year, it must have had some sort of effect, Xiao Shikan said. Kui Li and Chen Yahui heard his words and felt moved at how reliable this person was. He was giving them a way out, helping them lower the weight of it. Naturally, that wasn't Xiao Shikan's main intent. He followed, "We need to learn from this mistake." The other two immediately understood. He was saying that Excellent Era was currently in the middle of reproducing last year's disaster. Could I say something? Chen Yahui carefully spoke up. If you have something to say, just say it. Kui Li wasn't in a good mood right now. I'm just saying in theory, this year's situation is very different from last year's situation. After all, this year, we're direct competitors with Happy in the Challenger League. Right now, Happy urgently needs to improve their character strength so that they can close the gap between us. If we can limit their growth in game, we'll also be hurting them on stage. Since we have energy to spare, hitting them with a blow in the game could also be considered as preparation against them, Chen Yahui said. Xiao Shikan forced a smile. Guild leader Chen, the issue isn't whether we have energy or not, but rather in the game, it's hard to say who will be dealing that blow. Let's not talk about the past for now. Just take today for example. Guild leader Chen, I'm sure you've seen the contest for the dungeon records. I can be the representative for the team and say that our team put in their 100% in today's dungeons. I feel content with our performance, but there's nothing we can do about it. The reason that Happy's times are so much better than ours is because they spend all day in there. The game is their home stage. Even if our team's skill level is much higher, beating their records will require a certain amount of effort. That is the issue here. If we put in effort and we win, then that's great, but if we lose, everyone will receive a severe blow to their mentality. When match day comes, I don't know if this mental wall can be eliminated, Xiao Shikan said. There is always a winner and a loser in a competition. If we're too afraid of the negative impacts of losing and don't even try, won't that be too passive? Chen Yahui said. This isn't about being passive. This is about weight the pros and cons. You say competition, but what are we competing for? It's not like those rewards are necessary, nor does it matter much if Happy gets 1 or 2 extra rewards. So in this competition against them, we don't need to win. As long as we have a good enough time that puts pressure on them, so they cannot keep reaping rewards over and over again, isn't that enough? Why have our team strike at their morale? Guild leader Chen, send me a few of your helpers. I'll bring them into the dungeons and practice. That's all we need. Xiao Shikan said. Chapter 893. Little Thing. As Xiao Shikan's words fell, Kui Li and Chen Yahui couldn't help but glance at each other. These two weren't idiots, and immediately understood the reasoning behind Xiao Shikan's arrangements. At the same time, they also realized a flaw in the methods they used to deal with Yi Chu before. They always wanted to take him down with one move. Just like how they wanted to go in game now to compete with Yi Chu and ruin their plans, was it really necessary? Hearing Xiao Shikan's words, both of them realized that no, there was no need for them to invest so much time and effort. The change in their expressions was all taken in by Xiao Shikan, but he still added out of politeness, "How does my suggestion sound?" It's good, Kui Li nodded first, before saying to Chen Yahui, Guild leader Chen, could you make the arrangements on your side? Of course, Chen Yahui didn't argue any further. His debate with Xiao Shikan was silently forgotten. I'll do my best, Xiao Shikan smiled. Then I'll go ahead with the preparations. Chen Yahui left first after saying these words. Kui Li once again sighed internally at how valuable Xiao Shikan turned out to be. After a round of encouragement and praise, what was next was to deal with the personal feelings of the team members. Apart from the first successful ambush, in the other 2 10-player dungeons that they had run, they were beaten by Happy, who managed to complete it before they did. In addition, there was a wide gap between their scores, causing everyone to feel defeated and down. They were currently all sitting silently in the training room, spirits low. Kui Li had arrived with Xiao Shikan and the first thing they saw wasn't the group of pro players, but Su Mucheng standing outside the training room chomping on a pear. They hadn't called Su Mucheng to come along when they were dungeoning, yet she was still here. Was she here just to laugh at them? Kui Li didn't bother with her, simply nodding in greeting. It was Xiao Shikan, who was behind him, that slowed down to chat. What are you doing here? Eating a pear. Why are you eating a pear here? I'm not allowed to eat inside. Xiao Shikan didn't know how to respond. She knew that wasn't what he meant, but she still gave him such a shallow response. She was messing with him. Xiao Shikan had been informed of Su Mucheng's situation by the club. It was sad to know that she would be leaving after this season. However, Excellent Era had assured him they would find an equally skilled replacement that made up for her absence in the team. This made Xiao Shikan relieved. After all, he didn't need a pretty girl here to be eye candy, but a strong teammate who could work with them. It didn't matter if it was Su Mucheng or someone else. What are you guys rushing around for? Then, it was Su Mucheng's turn to ask, chomping on her pear as she craned her neck to look inside the training room. We're dungeoning, Xiao Shikan said. They hadn't informed Su Mucheng of their plans, so they didn't know if she knew or not. If he had been in-game just now though, she probably realized that they were dungeoning. Oh, how's it going? Su Mucheng asked. You're asking even though you know exactly what's happening, aren't you? Xiao Shikan responded. Yup, Su Mucheng nodded with a smile. I think we're done talking. Xiao Shikan was speechless, entering the room. As for Su Mucheng, she stayed outside since she hadn't finished eating her pear yet. It was a rule at Excellent Era that food wasn't allowed in the training room, and, after Yi Chu left, the training room also became non-smoking. In the room, Kui Li, who had personally come to deal with this mess, was talking, bringing praise and encouragement from the club. Not bad, everyone. Kui Li's smile seemed strangely sincere, to the point where it was extremely confusing to everyone present. Not bad? Running a 10-player dungeon and not being able to beat Happy's record, you called it not bad? We just casually ran a few dungeons, forcing Happy to use all their ability to win back the records and preventing them from obtaining rewards by repeatedly breaking their own recordings. You all did very well. Kui Li wore an expression of approval, and Excellent Era's pro players continued to be bewildered. This made Kui Li wonder to himself, was his overt praise a little too much? But there was nothing further to it. He had already spoken and couldn't take back his words, so he could only steel himself and continue with the praise. Now there's nothing more that we need to do, we can let Happy go and struggle to break those records now that they've set one with the best of their ability. We should continue to focus on training, on the competition, which are far more important than something like dungeon records. Next time, we can go and run some dungeons, and hopefully put pressure on Happy just like we did today. Kui Li's speech came to a close amongst lost glances exchanged between the players. Seeing the lack of response, he couldn't keep it up any longer. He took a hasty glance at the time before saying, "Oh, I think it's almost time for daily training. I'll leave now to avoid distracting you all." Kui Li turned, giving Xiao Shikan a meaningful look, naturally asking him to continue soothing tempers. Su Mucheng was still chomping on her pear when he exited the room. He ignored her and left. So, let's start training, everyone. Xiao Shikan was a little anxious, lost as to what he should do. How bold of Manager Kui, just coming up with a round of reasonless praises without any sort of hook, praising everyone until they were all completely and utterly bewildered. And Xiao Shikan had to be the one to clear up this mess. He smiled with an airy sort of joy, saying in a cheerful tone, "Surprised?" Everyone nodded like mad. It was really too surprising. Haha, me too. I wanted to ask for some more time to research these dungeons, because we aren't as familiar with them as Happy. Yet Manager Kui turned out to be very satisfied with what we accomplished already. Do you know why? Xiao Shikan said. Everyone shook their heads in silence. It's because none of this was about winning or losing from the very start. All we had to do was come over and leave a record. Because with this one record, we've already managed to cause a lot of trouble for Happy. As for winning and losing, we only need to worry about that during the competition itself. Xiao Shikan took careful note of everyone's expressions as he talked and noticed that his words had taken their hoped-for effect. Xiao Shikan had given them the reason they hadn't managed to run the dungeon faster than Happy. The following words told them that it wasn't that they couldn't or didn't do it, but because it wasn't worth their time. Finally, everyone recovered from the confusion of Kui Li's praise and entered a state of understanding. So that's how it is, someone said. Of course that's how it is, Xiao Shikan smiled. We've done enough dungeoning for today, so let's prepare for training. Okay, everyone agreed, returning to their desktops for training. Su Mucheng had finished her pear by now, and walked into the room. Not bad, Su Mucheng commended Xiao Shiken. Don't cause trouble for me. Xiao Shiken had only just begun to relax when he had to put up his guard once more. You're too nervous, Su Mucheng smiled. You're probably quite stressed, huh? Of course, our opponent isn't so easy to deal with, Xiao Shiken said. What plans do you have for now? Su Mucheng asked. Xiao Shiken's alarm was written on his face. With Su Mucheng's current attitude towards Excellent Era, anyone would be suspicious of her stance. Xiao Shiken was certain that Su Mucheng would continue to do her best on the field, but it was off the field that he was worried about. Seems like you guys have some big scheme going on, Su Mucheng commented. Not really, Xiao Shiken shook his head. I think what you said that day at the meeting was very true. If everyone could look at it from a better angle, then everything would be much easier. It's unfortunate that Yi Chu's influence on Excellent Era is too strong, causing them to be incapable of facing these problems with a cool head. It's not about his influence, Su Mucheng said. Huh? It's because they have guilt on their conscience, Su Mucheng said. Quote. That's why they rush to use Yi Chu's failure to prove themselves and cover up their own shortcomings. They aren't afraid of losing, but they're afraid of losing to Yi Chu. It's too scary for them because their hearts are knotted with guilt, Su Mucheng said. Quote. Let's do some training. Su Mucheng didn't continue the conversation, returning to her seat and beginning her daily training like usual. Xiao Shiken stared at her dumbly. Su Mucheng didn't turn her attention back to him. Instead, it was Sun Shang who left his seat and went over to him. Captain Sun, Xiao Shiken greeted. The emotions within this greeting were rather complicated. Sun Shang was their captain, but Xiao Shiken acted and was treated more like a captain than he was. For Sun Shang, captain was more of a title than a real position. Even so, they got along rather well. Sun Shang not only didn't seem to mind, but seemed very satisfied with this status quo. Xiao Shiken had a really hard time understanding this seemingly prideful prodigy. After all, how could an arrogant person bear having such a superficial captaincy? Hey, about that, Sun Shang spoke up. About what? Are we really not going to dungeon anymore? Yes, Xiao Shiken said. Sun Shang frowned, disappointed. Our efforts should be placed more on the competition and training, right? A little thing like dungeoning, we have time to do that anytime. We can go if we're bored or it's necessary for us to go check on it again, Xiao Shiken said. Yeah, it's just a little thing, Sun Shang nodded, before suddenly pausing as if he suddenly realized something. Little thing? Xiao Shiken, ha 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 ha. Sun Shang suddenly started bawling with laughter, pointing at Xiao Shiken. The fuck, I think your focus is little off point. Xiao Shiken had thought Sun Shang had a sudden enlightenment, but all he had noticed was this homophone. Little thing, little thing. Thus, this situation came to a close with the result of Xiao Shiken obtaining a new nickname. However, Xiao Shiken was the vice-captain, so how many would really dare to use this nickname to his face? It was only Sun Shang who had no fear and, from that day forwards, Xiao Shiken had become Little Thing to Sun Shang. Heh, Little Thing, even Su Mucheng sometimes used this nickname given by the person she didn't like. Xiao Shiken wanted to cry. Chapter 894. New Opportunity. Happy had snatched 2 records away from Excellent Era one after the other, turning all of Excellent Era's hard work into nothing. Fortunately, the system existed. The system took its job seriously. Even though Excellent Era's efforts didn't show up on TV, their efforts still left a mark on the record boards. It was just that since they weren't in first place, the record could only be seen by clicking on the appropriate dungeon record list and looking at it in detail. After completing these 2 dungeons, Team Happy let loose another sudden strike in order to take down the record previously set by Excellent Era, but in this attempt, they made a few mistakes and ended up failing. Even though everyone felt that it was a pity, they soon felt relieved. After all, setting records was a race against time. Even a slight mistake could lead to a slower time. These mistakes didn't need to be thoroughly examined. As long as everyone maintained their calm and concentrated in their next attempt, it would be fine. I really want to see the look on the faces of those guys from Excellent Era right now. When Chen Guo made this remark, her gaze shifted to the window. Her thoughts wandered away. However, the scene outside of the window ruined her imagination. They were currently located in their residential practice base, not Happy Internet Cafe, where Club Excellent Era was right across the street from them. Haha, Yi Shu gave a laugh at Chen Guo's comment, but in reality, he wasn't nearly as excited as Chen Guo was. It was true that Excellent Era had been stepped on, but in order to take this step, Happy had to give up on many things. If Excellent Era hadn't interfered, Happy could have gained the dungeon record rewards, but everything was over now. If Happy went all out, their dungeon times would be better than Excellent Era's, but the small difference between their times didn't allow for Happy to continue using their repeat method of farming orange equipment. As a result, Excellent Era had taken away quite a bit of potential equipment and material from Happy. In this competition, Excellent Era had lost in spirit, while Happy had lost in material goods. From the direct results, Happy should be the one crying. Yi Shu didn't become depressed at these losses though. He didn't have time for that. An opportunity had slipped away, which meant that more opportunities were needed to make up for those losses. These opportunities were about to arrive. 12/25. Christmas was on Wednesday next week. On Monday this week, Glory would officially reveal this year's Christmas events. The Christmas events every year never separated from presents. As a result, Christmas events naturally implied rich rewards. However, in order to obtain these rich rewards, there had to be some sort of challenge. This year's Christmas event was no exception. It borrowed from the iconic features of the Christmas holiday. The main events for this year involved stealing stockings. Stockings weren't presents, but stockings were a medium for Christmas presents. The concept for this year's Christmas event wasn't difficult to grasp. The more stockings you obtained, the more presents you would get. These stockings weren't just thrown around all over the game world for players to pick up. To get stockings, you had to accept a quest and then move to a certain map. This map wasn't a dungeon-type map, but rather an arena-type map. The stealing part of the event goes without saying. Each map only had a fixed number of stockings. Who would be able to collect the most? Just relying on being sharp-sighted and dexterous wouldn't be enough. The entire event would last for 3 days, starting from midnight on December 25th. Players didn't need to treasure every single second and start accepting quests as soon as it hit midnight. The number of quests that could be accepted was limited. Every character could only accept a quest to snatch stockings 3 times every day. As a 3-day event, that meant a total of 9 attempts. There was plenty of time, so there was no need to rush. There were other details about the event. Once the information was revealed, everyone began preparing for it. 50 players will do battle. 20 stockings will be scattered around randomly. Stockings are not bound to the player and can be dropped. After all 20 stockings have been picked up, the quest ends. I say, this year's event is clearly trying to have everyone kill and steal from each other. Wei Chen read the event details and expressed his thoughts on it. You're teleported to a random map. Small parties can accept quests together, but no large teams. Haha, they're not letting large teams join. It's probably to prevent those big guilds from forming 50-player teams and entering together. If it's just small parties, then we'll have to split into 2 teams, Wei Chen continued. It doesn't say that a party must have 5 players, right? Yi Shu said. No. Wei Chen looked around, but didn't see any rules regarding that. He thought about Yi Shu's question and immediately understood. If a small party entered, they would be fighting for 20 stockings. If an individual enters, it'll be a fight for 20 stockings too. So in theory, if Happy formed 2 parties, Happy would only be able to get a maximum of 40 stockings per quest. However, if each of them entered alone, that meant a maximum of 200 stockings possible. However, it was hard to say how many of those 200 stockings an individual could collect. Rankings. There are also rankings. Wei Chen continued to read the event details and saw a ranking section. As expected, placing high on these rankings meant rewards, and these rewards were, without a doubt, where the greatest rewards lay. There were several rankings, an guild 1, an individual 1, and a party 1. However, if you wanted to place on an individual or a party ranking, then for these quests, you couldn't change your status. In other words, an individual couldn't form a party with anyone. And for a party, whoever you teamed up with had to be the same people for all quests. We have to fight for these rankings, Wei Chen said. Of course. Then I'd better hurry and ask for a leave from Samsara. They'll definitely want me to be there. Wei Chen said. His position as a spy hadn't been easily obtained. He didn't want to give up on it so easily either. It just happened to be time for challenging new dungeons. Wei Chen's outstanding performance in leading teams was much appreciated by Samsara. However, his spy character in Samsara was a bit embarrassing. It still wasn't level 75 yet. Wei Chen didn't have time to level it and didn't want to hand it over to someone for power leveling. He could only squeeze in some time to slowly level it up bit by bit. Even so, that didn't affect Wei Chen's ability to lead dungeon teams. He used this currently level 72 Warlock account for these higher level dungeons. One day, one account means 3 chances. You can still do both, Yi Shu reminded Wei Chen. I'll just tell them in advance. We can see when the time comes. At Samsara, Wei Chen played the role of a rough but very serious and responsible team leader. How are things going to be arranged on our side? Chen Guo asked. Everyone had 2 accounts on them, so it's best if we can complete those quests on both accounts, Yi Shu said. Then who will be forming a party and who will be participating as an individual? Chen Guo asked. That will need careful consideration, Yi Shu said. Chapter 895. A Night of Observation. The event announcement was released less than 2 days before the event officially started. Old players understood the importance of the Christmas event and responded immediately upon hearing the news. Those who wanted to form a party began looking for their friends. Those who wanted to challenge the event alone used these 2 days' worth of time to improve their equipment. The club guilds obviously wouldn't miss this event. For them, apart from participating in the event, they would be competing for spots on the leaderboard. The rewards from the rankings were vividly promoted. But when they thought about how Lord Grimm existed in the game, the guild leaders couldn't let out a smile. For this event, players would be teleported to random maps and only small parties could enter. As a result, their advantage of having more players could only be displayed in the guild rankings. In the individual or team rankings, no matter how many guild members they had, they wouldn't be able to gather all of them together into a single arena. This competition would be a test of skill for elite players and teams. The top guilds would have been confident if not for the existence of Happy. The new dungeon records dominated by Happy was the clearest indicator. That was also a competition between elite players and teams, but the result? Only pro teams could contest against Team Happy. The Christmas event did not interfere with the Pro League though. The event lasted for 3 days starting from Wednesday and ending on Friday. After the event ended, Saturday would be the 16th round of the season. Pro players wouldn't be running to the game to have fun instead of preparing for their upcoming match though. Even if they were interested in playing, they might play around once or twice, but no hopes could be placed on them appearing on the actual rankings. The club guild leaders were worried. These 2 days passed by in a flash. The Christmas event officially began. Because of the limited number of quests each day, there weren't that many players impatiently waiting for midnight to come. As for the club guilds? For now, they didn't immediately dispatch their elite teams. With the rankings as their goal, they would first have to observe the true circumstances of this event before shooting their arrows at the target. Tonight, the club guilds studied this event, while actively taking note of the rankings. Lord Grimm? Happy. Would they appear on the rankings soon? They did not. When the sun came up, no one from Happy had appeared on the rankings yet. Although the club guilds hadn't sent out their elites yet, their foundation was already reflected in the results. In this free-for-all situation, those on the individual or team rankings were held by the club guilds. The guild rankings didn't need to be mentioned. The first 20 placings were swept up by the club guilds. Some people compared these rankings with the alliance rankings to see if there were any differences. There were definitely quite a few differences. For example, on the rankings, Guild Samsara was in first place. After their team became the champions last season, the guild had grown ferociously. The guild members were also extremely diligent. The traditional powerhouses Blue Brook Guild, Herb Garden, and Tyrannical Ambition followed Guild Samsara. Team Tyranny had a firm grasp on their first-place spot in the alliance, but their guild Tyrannical Ambition didn't seem to be any different from the other powerhouses. Their tyranny over the alliance wasn't reflected by their guild standing. There was also Excellent Dynasty. Although Team Excellent Era had been relegated to the Challenger League, their guild wasn't going to collapse just because of that. At this moment, those who held the most hope for Excellent Era were their most loyal fans. Guild Excellent Dynasty's performance in this event was extraordinary. Quite a few mid to low tier club guilds lost out to them. The other large discrepancy was Guild Heavenly Justice. Their team Heavenly Swords was teetering on the brink of danger. Their placing kept on pacing back and forth between the relegation and non-relegation zone. However, in this event, Heavenly Justice had an impressive placing, 7th. There were rumors that Heavenly Justice had put out rewards for this event in order to spark the enthusiasm of their guild members. Whether that was true or not would require further investigation. These club guilds attracted countless eyes, but the guilds themselves were strenuously searching the rankings to see Guild Happy's placing and check if they were a threat or not. After looking up Guild Happy, everyone felt relieved. Guild Happy's strength was still too weak. For the guild rankings, only relying on a few elite experts was useless. It was a test of the entire guild's strength. Happy's Lord Grimm and his team were mighty, but they would not be a deciding factor in these guild rankings. After a night of careful studying, the various guilds discovered another problem. Just like last year's event, the player rankings were divided by their levels. Usually, it was split for every 5 levels. In the normal servers, the separations were very detailed. Starting from level 20 after the beginner village, there was a separate ranking every 5 levels up until level 75. But in the heavenly domain, because players were all max level, there usually wasn't a separate ranking. However, this time, because of the new level cap, there were now 2 separate rankings in the heavenly domain. One was the level 70 to 74 rankings, while the other was the level 75 rankings. These 2 rankings were further split into individual and team rankings. The team rankings were based on the highest level player in the party. It had always been done this way. It was mainly to separate between those with level 70 and those with level 75 equipment. After studying these rankings for a night, the guilds discovered the problem: there were a lot fewer level 75 players than level 70 players. The level cap had been raised on 12/3. Right now, it was only 12/25. Only 20 or so days had passed since the update had been dropped. The higher the level, the more experience was required to level up. The club's core characters trained non-stop as fast as possible and reached level 75 in 11 days. Yishu and Ko weren't as diligent, but their efficiency wasn't low either. A few days after these core characters, their characters also hit level 75 and began sweeping the record rankings, but for the vast majority of players, how could they have so much free time? Players who only had a few hours each day to play were still struggling to grind levels. And this group constituted the vast majority of the player base. Most club guild members were loyal fans of the respective guild's team. These loyal fans were also very passionate about glory and were naturally more willing to spend more time on the game. As a result, there were quite a few players from the club guilds that managed to reach level 75 during these 20 days. Consequently, among the current level 75 player base, those from the club guilds took up a good portion. As a result, in random distribution, it was highly likely that players or teams from the same guild would meet on the map. The distribution was clearly random. It didn't try and avoid having members from the same guild meet. With this, players from the same guild could help each other, naturally giving them an advantage over others. This hidden phenomenon was finally grasped by the top guilds after a night of observation and understanding. But if their guild had this advantage, so did every other guild's. This advantage needed to be used and guarded against. However, while some guilds had the advantage, others didn't, such as Guild Happy. The big guilds had placed spies in Happy a long time ago. Even if they couldn't get information from core players, they could still check the guild member list and check their levels. No? Guild Happy clearly didn't have too many level 75 players. During their early development stage, they couldn't be too picky, so they had good and bad players mixed into the bunch. There were always active players online every day, but there were also many that stayed offline for many days. Guild Happy was still in the process of transitioning from a player guild to a professional guild, after all. Facing Guild Happy, the big guilds held this advantage. Under this situation, if they happened to have a numbers advantage, might they have a chance at giving trouble to Lord Grimm and Happy's other experts? Even though Lord Grimm had god-level might, the guilds could think of a way to deal with it. Apart from having more members, what other advantage did they have? It wasn't like they could find someone to compete with a god. This event would originally have prevented having a numbers advantage, but because of this special occasion, this scene occurred. The club guilds would naturally think up a solution, but after thinking over it, even if two teams from the same guild, if they met Lord Grimm's team, it would be a 10 versus 5, but could that be considered as having an advantage? Thinking of this point, the guild leaders felt depressed at this 10 versus 5 conclusion. With the strength of Happy's experts, 2 or 3 times their still numbers wouldn't be enough. Even more would be needed. However, any more and it would be unlikely for the situation to happen. After this entire night, 3 teams appearing in the same map had only taken place a few times. Then, if one guild isn't enough, what about multiple guilds allying together? Someone couldn't help but bring it up. In their guild leader chat group, people gradually began speaking up and discussing this topic. Samsara's doing quite well. They've gotten so many stockings tonight. Haha, your guild's doing well too. Heavenly Justice isn't in this chat group yet? Their performance this event is quite impressive. What's going on, Blossom Valley? You guys seem a bit depressed. The guild leaders spoke one after the other, discussing each other's results. At the bottom of their hearts, they all hoped that everyone else's achievements were negative numbers, so their own guild could come out on top. Everyone seemed friendly to each other on the surface though. Wow, Excellent Dynasty is fearsome too. Someone seemed to have found a topic and spoke out. We're just trying our best. Chen Yahui put on a fake smile like everyone else. Compared to you guys, Happy is so much worse. Where are they on the guild rankings? We can't even find them. Someone began cutting into the main subject. Their guild has no hope of making it onto the guild rankings, but what about the individual and team rankings? The main subject had finally been touched upon. If we don't put up some countermeasures, we'll probably lose to them, no? How about we join hands and suppress them? The guild leader speaking didn't seem to be very happy. In reality, for these guilds, more brain cells died from working together than fighting against one another.